The first time I noticed people laughing at my father, I was 10 years old. It was the annual school function, and children were performing lines about dreams and success. I was backstage when I overheard whispers. "That's his dad," one boy said. "He drives a rickshaw," another laughed. "No wonder he wears the same clothes every day." I peeked through the curtain and saw him sitting quietly. Simple shalwar kameez, worn sandals, hands rough from years of work. He didn't raise his eyes. He just watched the stage, waiting for my name to be called. That night, on the way home in the rickshaw, I didn't speak much. He asked how my performance went. I muttered it was fine. I didn't tell him I wished he had dressed differently, that I felt ashamed. The city lights blurred past us as I stared at the road. Life with my father was quiet, simple. He woke before sunrise, prayed, and left for work. He returned tired but never empty-handed. Sometimes fruit, sometimes sweets. He always asked about my homework and always listened. At school, other kids talked about father's offices, cars, vacations. I learned to avoid these conversations. One afternoon, a group of boys surrounded me near the playground. "Ask your dad to give us a free ride," one said. I pushed past them, pretending I didn't care. That evening, when my father asked why I was silent, I almost confessed. Almost. Instead, I said I was tired. He nodded, his rough hand resting briefly on my head. "Study hard," he said. "One day you will stand tall." Months passed. Teasing continued, but something inside me shifted. I began noticing my father's dignity, how he refused extra payment for struggling passengers, how he helped the elderly in and out of the rickshaw. People greeted him warmly, not with pity, but respect. One evening, heavy rain flooded the streets. Traffic stopped, cars stalled. I watched as my father helped push a stranded vehicle out of rising water. The driver, in an expensive suit, thanked him repeatedly. My father smiled and drove away. He never spoke about it. The first turning point came during a school visit. Our teacher announced she would come to students' homes. Panic filled me. I imagined her seeing our small rented house, old furniture, the parked rickshaw. The day she arrived, my father welcomed her, serving tea himself. He listened attentively as she spoke of my grades. Before leaving, she asked about a wooden trunk. He opened it. Inside were neatly folded uniforms, medals, and framed certificates. Army insignia gleamed. Her expression changed instantly. "You served?" she asked. He nodded. 22 years. She picked up one medal. Gallantry Award. She looked at him with a kind of respect I had never seen. "Why?" she began, but did not finish. He smiled. "Life teaches many lessons," he replied. That night I couldn't sleep. I waited until my father sat under the porch light. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" I asked. He looked at me calmly. "Tell them what?" "That you were an officer, that you had medals, that you're not just a rickshaw driver," I whispered. Shame burned my chest. He didn't look angry, just sad. "Son," he said softly, "there is no just in honest work. I left the army with memories, not wealth. I wanted you to understand dignity, not impress people." Life continued. The teasing never fully stopped at school, but I noticed something. People started looking at him differently when they saw how he treated others. He never boasted about his medals or his past. One afternoon, a neighbor's child fell near a busy street. My father ran, lifted the child safely, and returned to the rickshaw without a word. People whispered about him, quietly admiring, but he never acknowledged it. The real change came the following school function. The principal announced a surprise guest speaker. My father's name. Whispers filled the hall. The same boys who had once laughed turned their heads in confusion. My father walked to the stage in the same simple clothes. The projector screen lit up. Images appeared. Him in uniform, standing tall with fellow soldiers, medals pinned to his chest, newspaper clippings praising his bravery. The hall grew silent. He began to speak calmly. "Children," he said, "people judge you by what they see, clothes, vehicles, houses, but character is built when no one is watching." He paused. "I have worn a uniform. I have commanded men. I have received honors. But the greatest honor is earning your bread honestly." His eyes found mine. "There is no shame in hard work. The only shame is in arrogance." I felt tears burn behind my eyes. Around me, no one laughed. After his speech, the principal invited me on stage. My legs trembled. I stood beside him. He placed his arm around my shoulders. Cameras flashed, applause filled the hall. For the first time, I didn't feel small. I felt proud. Not because of his medals, not because of the uniform, but because he chose humility when he could have chosen comfort. That evening, as we rode home, the city lights blurred past. "Are you embarrassed of me?" he asked. I shook my head. "No," I whispered. I was wrong. He didn't say, "I told you so." He nodded, quietly satisfied. Years passed. I grew, studied, and pursued my career. I understood fully what he had taught me. Wealth can be earned and lost. Titles fade. Applause quiets. But dignity remains. My father continued driving his rickshaw, living simply, serving people quietly, and never boasting about his past. When I graduated from university, I looked for him in the crowd. He was there, standing quietly at the back, in the same simple clothes. I walked to him, hugged him tightly. "Everything I am," I said, "is because of you." He smiled softly. "No," he replied. "It is because you chose to understand." Life continued, but I never forgot those lessons. Every choice I made was shaped by the example my father had set. Honesty, humility, courage. These were not words. They were lived. I watched how people around me chased recognition, trophies, money, yet I understood that true strength was quiet, unseen, and resilient. My father never sought applause. He just existed, steady, guiding, patient. One day my father fell ill. Hospital walls, white and sterile, replaced our familiar streets. Machines beeped softly as doctors whispered updates. I sat by his bedside, holding his hand. "I fear I haven't done enough," I confessed, my voice cracking. He squeezed my hand. "Son," he whispered, "you are more than enough. You chose to see what others overlooked. That is your greatness." I realized then that life is not about what others see, but about what we do when no one is watching. I remembered the rickshaw rides, the long walks home, the quiet evenings where we shared stories under dim lights. Those were the moments that shaped me. And in that sterile hospital room, surrounded by unknown faces, I understood that love, respect, and integrity are inherited, not bought. Years later, I became a teacher. I told my students stories of courage, humility, and resilience, of men who chose dignity over applause. And I never spoke about titles or awards, only lessons. One afternoon, a student asked me, "Teacher, how do we know who is truly brave?" I smiled. "Watch when no one is watching," I replied. The day my father passed away, I stood at his simple grave. The sky painted with hues of orange and violet. Friends, neighbors, and colleagues came to pay respects, but I stood alone in thought. All those lessons, all those silent sacrifices seemed to echo around me. I whispered, "I will live by what you taught me." And I meant it. Life went on. I faced failures, heartbreaks, and moments of doubt. But every time I thought of him, his calm, steady eyes, the unspoken courage, the humility that never wavered, and I chose the same path. Sometimes I walked past the streets where he had once driven his rickshaw. I imagined him there, guiding someone quietly, without pride, without fanfare, and I smiled. One evening, standing under the stars, I felt his presence, the universe vast and unending, yet somehow intimate. "You understand now," he seemed to say. "The true measure of life is unseen, unheard, yet felt deeply." I nodded, tears glistening in my eyes. I finally understood. True wealth is not money. True success is not recognition. True life is lived in quiet dignity, shaped by love, courage, and understanding. And so, I carried his legacy forward. I taught, I guided, I loved, and I lived, never boasting, never seeking applause, because I had learned the ultimate lesson. Character is not what others see. It is what endures in silence. Even now, when people ask about my achievements, I smile quietly. The medals, the awards, the titles, they are symbols, but not the essence. The essence is invisible. It is the strength to endure, the courage to love, the humility to serve. And I know deep down that in choosing to understand, in choosing integrity over pride, I honor my father every single day. Because life is fleeting, but character lasts forever. And I have learned that those who truly shape the world do so quietly, without applause, without recognition, but with unwavering courage and love. And